On this episode of Healthcare Heartbeat, it's an interview about interviewing and the 5 things that you need to prepare for your Avant interview.
You are listening to Healthcare Heartbeat, brought to you by Avant Healthcare Professionals.
Welcome to Healthcare Heartbeat. On this episode, I'm here with Sara Rose Tamir. Hi.
Hey, Ross.
Director of Global Recruitment.
Good to be here.
Yeah, I'd love to I'm excited to have you back. You were on our second episode ever, where we went through our entire recruitment process. Mm-hmm. So if you're just getting started in the pursuing a role as a USRN or a healthcare professional in the United States, I would actually recommend bookmark that video. We'll drop it in here. We'll link it up here. We'll link it up here for you. After you watch this one, go watch that one. It's just jam-packed full of really, really essential info. But one of the pieces that we hit on during that process is the interview, right? A very important stage.
Huge.
And what we wanted to do in today's episode is actually go through and dig a little deeper into the interview stage and share with you 5 things that you should be prepared to discuss in your Avant interview, right? And this comes from, so how long have you been in recruitment with Avant?
Yeah.
Many years.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
This year is going to be 9 years with Avant.
Oh my God. That's a long You've seen a lot of candidates.
Yeah.
You've talked to a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
So this is all informed from actual conversations you've had.
Yeah.
And now as the director of the department, guiding, what those interviews are like. So this is really a inside scoop, if you will, for those of you watching or listening on what are some of the things we talk about. Because I think it's important that, if you're watching this, you don't feel like that this is a gotcha.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because an interview is it's scary.
It can be.
Right?
It can be.
And I don't think, what I think we don't want it to be is this thing where it's like, haha, we're gonna trick you with these secret questions, right? And so we wanted to hit these top 5 so that you have the opportunity to prepare for hopefully your interview and your discussion.
Absolutely.
Right? So I call them 5 Asians. They all end in Asian, right? I don't know if that'll help you remember it or not, but that's what they are. So are you ready to get rolling?
The most ready. Let's go.
Oh my God, she's bringing the energy. Let's do it.
No words can explain how thankful I am for giving me this opportunity na makapagtrabaho sa United States kasi this changed my whole life. I promised to myself din when I was studying na I was born poor but I will never die poor. This is not just for me, but also for the people who supported me, which is my family. This sacrifice is for them.
All right, so we're back and we're going to hit on the first Asian.
Yeah.
Right? And that is location.
Yeah.
So in the interview, you're going to be asked about location, right? What are some of the things related to location that, the viewer listener should be aware of and start to think about?
All right. So when we're asking about location, we're asking what your location preferences are for where you'd like to live and work in the United States. And so during the initial interview with a recruiter, they're going to ask for your top 5 location preferences. If you only have one, that's fine. If you don't have any, that's fine. But our goal in that initial interview is to understand where you'd like to be and why. So maybe you have an aunt that lives in Texas and you want to be close to family, let us know. Maybe you've seen Florida in movies and on TV, you want to live near a beach, let us know. Whatever the location preferences are, we're going to ask you to share those with us during the initial interview. And then we're going to confirm if you're flexible with location. One thing we want to share, we are absolutely hoping to place you where you'd like to be in terms of location. And we do have hundreds of clients across the U.S. in 40 different states. So there's absolutely a chance it can happen. We're going to work towards that. But we do need to practice with transparency. We want to operate totally transparent and let you know what you're signing up for. And we can't guarantee location 100%.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing, too, going into an interview that, I know it's nerve-wracking and it's something that's, it's a big pressure piece and we're trying to break down some of that. Right. But interviews at the end of the day are really about, I always look at it like as alignment.
Right. Is this the right match for one another?
Correct, right? Yeah. It has to work both ways. And if it doesn't work for you, then it's probably not going to end up working for us. Right. And that's where I just love what you threw out there, the word transparency. Right. That is critically important. Yeah. And like both parties almost have to come to the table being very aware and being very transparent. Hey, here's what I want. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, just so you understand, like you said,
here's
we're going to try.
We can meet you.
Here's where we can meet. Yeah. Here's what we can do. Right. It's a dance, if you will. Right. And it has to work for both sides. Right. And I think that's something that is really important. And we do have a lot of options when it comes to location. Right. Is there anything else tied to location that is important for someone watching, listening to this to be aware of?
Yeah, I would say our priority and our responsibility to the nurses we work with or any healthcare professional is making a placement for them that is going to set them up to be successful long-term in their career here in the U.S. And so our decisions are driven by their clinical experience. So even if you have the strongest passion and it means so much to you to, work in, let's say, New York, if we don't have any positions that you're qualified for based on your unique clinical experience, we can't place you in New York. And so the driver for our placement process is based on clinical experience. But like you mentioned, and like I shared earlier, we have a lot of open positions with our clients. And so we do have more options now with placing our nurses somewhere they'd like to be. But at the end of the day, it's just not ever something that we can guarantee at this point. And
there's a lot of variables, right, with this whole process. Right. And I think the purpose even of putting together this podcast is to help you also understand a number of the variables, right, from our perspective, and then to help you, again, prepare, for this conversation so that we can figure out if this is a good match and how it would look potentially moving forward, right? So we hit location.
Yes.
The second Asian is motivation, okay, right? So motivation is really about why do you want to move to the U.S., right? Is that kind of like, I'm sure one of the kickoff questions, right? Is kind of an important question related to this process.
Right.
But what else falls under the motivation, or what else is important for them to think about when getting that question?
Right. So if you are ready to share motivations in terms of your professional goals, if that's part of the reasoning that you're pursuing this opportunity, also personal, why is this important? Why is this in your heart? If it's a dream, did it come from family? Is it something you've seen in movies? Is it, you want to travel and explore the U.S.? Are you a food? Like, why is this important to you from a professional level? If there's any, thing to share around that, personal. And then also thinking about Avant, as a company to work with to achieve such a lifelong dream for so many. Why are you interested in partnering with Avant to achieve this goal?
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, is we've been doing this for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And, we truly believe that, we are a premier option for you. And so, I do think I would imagine it would be helpful at this stage to understand if they've been looking at other options, what attracted you to Avant? Was it, a particular, was it from a testimonial? Was it from a friend? Was it something you read online? Was it help us, kind of add a little more context to it. And I think it's okay also to share that personal and professional side, right? Hearing from you about what your personal drive is. Yeah. Hey, I like to travel. I want to do this. And I, in addition to, or growing my own career, right? Or helping my family or whatever that may be. Everyone is unique and everyone's motivations are unique. And I think what is helpful at any interview stage is helping us understand who you are, right? Like who you are not only as a professional, as a healthcare professional, but who you are as a person. Yeah. Because this is a relationship. We're going to spend, if you sign on with Avant, we spend a lot of time.
We're together for years. Get ready.
Years together. And that's an important component, right? Is that, you bring kind of your whole self to this discussion and to the process as a whole. So the next number 3 area item for you to be thinking about is education.
Yes.
Okay. So what do they need to prepare for when it comes to being asked about education?
Right. So on that phone call, we're going to be asking the name of the university where you completed your nursing education. We're going to be confirming your graduation date. So you don't have to give us a specific day, but at least try and have in mind the month and year that you graduated. And that's with your initial nursing program. Now, a lot of the nurses watching this may have completed multiple types of programs.
Good for you.
For nursing. Yeah, amazing. You would be surprised how much we see so many nurses have gone back to school and completed multiple different types of educational programs. Kudos, definitely. But be ready to share those with us. If you completed like a postgraduate diploma in psychiatric nursing, or maybe initially you completed a nursing diploma to become an RN and then you went back and did a bachelor's, any nursing related program, we need to understand the name of the university or school you attended, the name and type of the program, and when you graduated. Those are the 3 key things per educational program.
Now, what about in situations where someone is in school currently? What's the situation there? Whether it be, I don't know if it would be post-grad or maybe even their initial diploma or what have you. Right. What's the situation there?
So it would depend. You know, everyone's situation is a little different. But let's say big picture, for nurses that are in a schooling program, let's say they've already become a registered nurse, they're actively working as a registered nurse abroad, and they are pursuing further education right now. We need to first think about, is this a nurse that's going to need to be enrolled in our NCLEX review? Because one of the biggest benefits of our program is we have an amazing NCLEX review, and that is because NCLEX is a requirement to practice nursing in the U.S. And so if you are going to be enrolled in Avant's NCLEX review, we don't want you to be enrolled in an additional schooling program, because if you think about it, then you're working full-time, you're enrolled in schooling wherever you are now, and you're going to be enrolled in an intensive minimum 7-month NCLEX review program to prepare for the NCLEX, where there's weekly assignments and deadlines and modules and all the things. It is so much. And so it's hard to balance so many priorities. And that's not even considering just your human life as, sometimes a parent,
what's
a partner,
that?
what you want,
just your personal life.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we normally want nurses that are going to be enrolled in our NCLEX review to not be enrolled in additional schooling programs.
I see. Okay.
But if someone already has the NCLEX and they're just joining our program and waiting to come to the U.S., then yes, it's okay for them to be enrolled in schooling programs while waiting to arrive.
So we've hit location, we've hit motivation, we've hit education. This next one is somewhat related to education, but this is situation. The fourth thing is situation. Yeah. And this is more about where they are now, correct? Like where are they currently working?
Right.
So what kind of information, I think, is probably very similar to education, but I'm sure there's differences, of course. What kind of information should someone prepare for that conversation around their current working situation?
So while we're going to focus, on your resume, you should list all nursing experience. When we talk to you for the phone interview, we are primarily focusing on your current position. So I would say be ready to talk about the exact start date that you have for your current facility, the full name of your facility. We might need to ask some clarifying questions about, if there's one facility name, but they have different branches. We might need to verify exactly which branch or location you're placed at for your facility. We want to know how many beds your hospital or facility has. We need to know, is it government owned or privately owned? Is it primary, secondary, tertiary level? We need to know what your unit you're currently assigned to. Are you in medical surgical? Are you in the ICU? Are you in the operating room? ENT? Where are you currently working? And have you worked in different units at that hospital? If so, what dates did you spend in the different units before moving into your current unit?
So if you have moved around in units / departments, understanding and being able to share those dates of
where have you been and where were you exactly? When were you there? Yes. Role is huge. We need to know, are you working as a staff nurse? Are you assigned any charge nurse responsibilities? Are you a manager? Like, what is your specific role within that unit? We need to think about how many hours per week you're currently working on average. We know things fluctuate, but on average, how many hours per week you're working. And then I would say focusing on your current unit, what are some of the basics about that? So let's say if you are in medical surgical, how many beds does that entire unit have? What are the age range of your patients in that medical surgical unit? What's common for your nurse to patient ratios? How many patients are you handling at once, on duty in that facility and in that unit? Maybe think of the common cases or skills you perform. Just be ready to talk about what you see and do as a nurse every day in your current position.
And this, again, this is just a further reinforcement of fit, right? Like, and the relationship and understanding your current situation and, how conceivably does that match with our program and the opportunities that we have. Now, one thing about situation, what about if there is a gap in employment? Is there anything that, maybe they took a couple months or maybe a year off? Is there anything that, they should be prepared to discuss related to that?
We might ask why if there's a large gap. Maybe someone started a family, want a time away from work, totally fine. But if we notice a large gap in employment, we might just ask about it. But generally, as long as you're currently working in a qualified setting, that is our focus.
Got it. Okay. And I think that's good to know because life happens. And, to your point, maybe it's starting a family, taking care of a family member, whatever the multitude of answers may be, just being able to, I think, again, be honest and transparent about that, and then be prepared to speak to your current situation. Right. Now, the last thing that we're bringing to you to help you prepare for your Avant interview is about going from your current situation to where you would like to be, right? The old, where do you see yourself? And that's around the aspirational aspect. Right? So here's where you are. Where would you like to be? So help our viewers and listeners understand how can they what kind of things should they prepare to answer that question?
Sure. So in the interview with the recruiter, they are going to be focusing on plans for migration to the U.S., right? So they want you to start thinking about if you're coming, are you bringing family members with you? Are you including a spouse? If so, that's great. If you're legally married, we can include them on the green card petition so they can join here. We're also going to be thinking if you want to bring children to the U.S. If so, that's great. We can include them on the green card petition as long as they're under the age of 21 before arriving to the U.S. So we're going to talk really about who you plan to include on your green card petition and when you plan to have them join you in the U.S. after you've moved to the U.S. And then, of course, not just when, but saving for them is a big component for that.
It's on the very practical, real preparational aspect, right? We've been doing this long enough that we can identify and help guide you through this process to say, okay, well, if that's what you'd like to do, you need to be thoughtful of XYZ, right? And then I think if you're in a situation where maybe family or spouse is not a factor, when we're talking about this aspirational piece, does this get into additionally any sort of like career aspirations or personal aspirations? Like, is that something that they should also just start to think about a little bit for that conversation?
I think one thing to be mindful of is when nurses initially transition and work on the contracted period with Avant, that they are going to be in a bedside role. So think like staff nurse level position. And so if your intention is to come over and immediately jump into a supervisory role or something non-bedside, then it's of course important to ensure whether there's alignment or not there. And so Avant is not able to provide positions that are non-bedside. Our employment opportunities are for bedside nurses.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, this plays into transparency and this plays into the fit for both parties. And I think that is important, and why I brought that up is because you need to know that, right? There at no point, again, is any of this a secret or anything like that. And you brought up a great point as far as just the the kind of the structure of the work, and it's a commitment.
It is.
I mean, on both sides.
Yes.
We talked about that earlier this episode about how this is a relationship and it's a commitment. And that's what's really important for us, is that when you sign on with us, we are making a commitment to you, right? Yeah. Huge commitment, from the immigration to the training to the travel to all of those aspects, right? To the placement, all of that. We have made that years long commitment to you. And the way that kind of is reciprocated is through the contract out, is through the contract that we have. And so at no point is that a secret. At no point is that a surprise. But I do think, again, it's important to understand for you out there, if you're thinking about this journey and hopefully thinking about working with Avant, to understand that is how the program works, right? So we've just shared with you 5 things that you should prepare for your Avant interview. Now, to get to your interview, you have to apply.
Yes.
So if you haven't already, if you're ready to make this journey, ready to make the leap, I encourage you to go online and apply now. And maybe even before you do, just for one sec, we actually did an episode all about how to craft an amazing resume. Okay. So I would, I'm throwing out a lot of other episodes we've done, because here's the thing, guys, we do a lot of really great content to help you, right? So if you haven't already, subscribed, but go and watch this episode about crafting an amazing resume. And the bonus of watching that episode is you can even grab the completely free template that we give you. Okay. So this truly is, we are trying to make this as clear and transparent for you as a candidate, and prepare your resume, prepare for the interview. We have episodes all about the immigration process, right? So every step of the journey, we're hitting it in this podcast. So if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't checked out our other episodes, I encourage you to do that. Don't go away though, because we're going to come back. We got more. There's more to cover, because we have some real quick tips for your actual interview, some quick tips. So stay right there. We'll be right back.
I have so many international nurses that are now charge nurses, that are nurse clinicians, hope to be managers someday. They are part of my succession plan for my future leadership team. But I think as a leader, you have to be able to see that in each individual and know what they can do and help them get there.
It's always exciting, especially in this new role that I am, because I'm in charge of onboarding those Avant nurses, and I'm always excited. Yes, we have another Avant nurse coming.
We're back. Thanks for sticking with us, because we have more tips for you related to interviewing. Okay. First tip. We talked about this and you shared this with me. One of the first tips was related to kind of their location and setup. Okay. So, hey, you schedule your interview. You got the day, you got the time. What should they prepare for?
All right. So knowing that you have, like you just said, the day and time.
Know the day and know the time.
That's the
Step
first
one.
thing. Be ready at the time that you committed to being ready for this interview. This is a job interview, right?
Yeah.
So it's a professional interaction. So just being available at the time that you said you'd be available is the first step. If something happens, life happens sometimes, maybe a shift changes, any notice that you can provide us, if you need to reschedule the interview, give us as much advance notice as possible. The last thing we want is to try to call you for this and we don't even hear from you. Mm-hmm. Or maybe 5 minutes before the scheduled interview, you send us an email saying, sorry, can't make it.
Yeah.
So avoid that at all costs in terms of like no showing or just completely disregarding the scheduled interview. And if you need to cancel, just give us notice so we can get that rescheduled. But really, if you are going to be available for that interview, make sure you are ready at the time that you said you'd be available. Our team is so excited to talk to you, and they have set aside special time to speak with you. And there are thousands of nurses, in our pipeline that are applying to work with us or waiting for interviews. And so if we were able to schedule your interview, know that we're very excited to speak with you. And there are also lots of other nurses that are waiting for that chance. Yeah. So, we don't take it for granted.
It's a coveted opportunity. Yeah. There's only so many blocks in the day for us. And so as best you can communicate to us if you have a conflict is great. But also, again, starting off, I think, on the right foot of the commitment aspect here, making this a priority.
Correct.
And I think to that end, it's also more often than not, I think majority of the time, these are phone calls.
Right.
Right. So I think another big component there, I'd imagine, is being in a place that's reasonably quiet.
Yes.
So that we can hear you and you can hear us.
Right.
Right. And then I think you'd also mention just if there's the option of internet, it's always kind of like a good backup, right?
Correct. We'll probably try calling through the regular phone line, but maybe the connection is choppy. We can't hear each other. There's a lag of some sort. We can also try WhatsApp. We can try Viber. We can try different connection modes to see if we can improve the quality of the call.
So know the day and time. Mm-hmm. Do your absolute best to stick to it.
Yeah.
Quiet place. Yes. Right. If Wi-Fi is an option as a backup, that's a good thing. I think on the call itself too, it's presenting themselves as professional, right? So what does that kind of look like or even sound like for you on the other end as a recruiter?
Sure. So one thing I want to call out is that it's not a one size fits all. We are all individuals. We're all unique. We all have our own human characteristics, and that's wonderful. Embrace that. Be yourself. Be authentic. We love that. It brightens our day when someone shows us their true personality and allows us in to get to know who they truly are. But with that, keep in mind that this is a job interview, so there is a certain level of professionalism that we want to see demonstrated on that call. So basic, manners, etiquette of just, I say bringing a good energy to that interaction, kindness, manners, a warmth is always nice to have, but we also understand you may have just finished a 12-hour night shift. You may be exhausted. You may have been up with your child all night.
Sure.
Life happens, so it's not like you have to be the most vibrant, high energy. All the we understand we're all human. We have good days. We have bad days. We have stressful moments. This is life.
I think it's about we want you to bring your best self.
We do.
Right? Whatever that is, whoever that is, we really want that's who we want on that call. Right? Because again, it helps us understand who you are.
Right.
And the piece of that too, which I think is kind of just our third big takeaway and tip for you, is about preparation. Sure. And I think to the extent of clear, concise answers that answer the question.
Yes.
Right. And here's the great thing. Here's the good news. You've already checked out this episode. You have 5 areas that we've already given you really great guidance on how to prepare, right? So obviously these aren't all the questions you're going to get in an interview, but a lot of the questions I'm sure are going to branch off of these 5. So we've given you all the materials you need to at least, I think, again, eliminate a certain layer of I'm nervous. I don't know what questions they're going to ask. I'm terrified. All right, go back, watch this, take notes, right? Follow our instruction as far as these 5 questions you should be prepared to speak to. And you're going to be more than halfway along, right? And I think when you prepare, it allows you to then feel a little more comfortable. And bringing your whole self is really important, because what we want you to be able to do is speak to these things, but not be like a robot.
Yeah.
Right? In interviews, I think a lot of people, they'll get caught up on, okay, I've heard from a friend, these are the questions that they're going to ask, right? And so I'm going to read this script exactly, right? And then when you do that, it actually kind of, I think, adds a little more stress to the whole exchange.
Well, one thing is we don't want you to utilize any notes or script during the interview. So if we hear notes or we think you're reading off a script, that's a problem. That's going to create challenges in that interview. We're going to have to address that. That's a concern. So you should be using your mind. And we're saying prepare, definitely. Think through the topics we've discussed. It's okay to talk to friends. What was your experience like? What did they ask about? That's totally fair. Makes sense. But we don't want you reading off of a script or utilizing notes or having a friend in the room with you sharing some answers. That's a hard no. That could completely disqualify you, not just now, but ever in the future if we have any concerns around that. And that's happened, unfortunately. You know, I'm sure there's nurses that have applied that were so eager to work with us that they wanted to do everything in their power to try and achieve the result they wanted. And that included sometimes having friends in interviews and giving
interviewing is not what we would call like a buddy
activity.
system.
No.
Because that buddy is not going to be with you at bedside, you know, and they're not going to be with you throughout taking the NCLEX. So it's important. I think this gets back to also, when are you ready to apply, right? So you know all these things we've talked about here. You can go back, check out a whole bunch of other episodes that hit on all the various stages of your journey. And maybe you're not ready now, but maybe in a couple months,
right?
Maybe in a year, right?
We'll be here.
We'll be here, right? And I think that's the thing is you need to make that decision, and now you're even that much more informed of, okay, what are the types of things I need to be prepared to speak to, and then what kind of experience do I even need to bring to the table that match and fit with what we're doing. So, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Again, if you have not already, please like, comment, subscribe wherever it is that you are listening or watching this. It really helps our show, and it really helps us reach other healthcare professionals just like you who are going through this journey. So we really, really appreciate it. And I really, really appreciate you coming back on the show, Sarah. So thank you so much. I look forward to having you again.
I'll be ready.
Cool.
Thank you so much for having me, Ross.
Thanks for listening. This has been Healthcare Heartbeat by Avant Healthcare Professionals, the leader in international healthcare staffing and recruitment, where we change the lives of healthcare professionals every day. To learn more about how our healthcare professionals can help your facility, visit AvantHealthcare.com and be sure to subscribe to this show wherever you get your podcasts.